and protecting the passer. I mean, we know there's areas we have to improve in, just like every position every year does, and we're fighting to do that.
You're widely considered a great recruiter. What's your philosophy there when you go out to recruit players?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I don't know about great, but I'll take it though. I mean, first, send that to my wife and let her know I'm great or something. No, I'm just kidding. She's good to me. But I think when people see that you're genuine and that you believe in what you're selling, it comes across to people in a good way. And so, you got to be relentless. And in this league, I mean, as soon as you're not recruiting, you're looking bad. And so you got to stay after it. But I think when people feel like you're genuinely interested in them and you care about, their futures, I think then they open up to you and you can start building a good relationship.
Well, there's a wondering of you guys have talked about a lot, that physical mindset, firing off the ball, and what you want to do more so this year. But with your type of offense, I think there's some people that aren't sure how that's going to work. How can you zone block and even gap block with that kind of mindset?
I don't think there is a run play that you don't come off the ball, other than a draw maybe, and that's where you pass that, obviously. But I think any time that you take every run block that you have and have the mindset of a drive block, then you can execute what you do. Now you have to understand the scheme and who's helping you and who's not helping you. Am I on my own? What's the defense trying to do to me? And once they figure all that stuff out, which is common sense in football as you keep going on and teaching, then we should be able to come off the football because whether it's a zone block or whether it's a double team block, most zone blocks have help, most double team blocks have help. So you should be able to come off the ball and hit somebody in the mouth.
When you have offensive line breakdowns in college football, what do you think is the biggest reason for those normally? Is it understanding of scheme? Is it something physical? Is it something else? What is it?
I think it's communication and trust are two major things that you have to have up front. Just like in a secondary. If we're not all on the same page, we're going to give up a big play. Same thing up front. If we're not all on the same page, then we're going to give up a sack, a TFL, or a run for no gain. And so we have to continually, communicate to each other, make sure we're all on the same page, and then we got to trust each other. I mean, you got to trust that your brother's going to be there for you when you're running that zone play, so you can come off the football. And when that trust is not there, that's when people start trying to cover up, and that's when some things start happening.
You've been here even before your role now as offensive line coach. Talk about Jashawn Robertson's development as a vocal leader to hold his teammates accountable.
I think he's more comfortable in that role. I think maybe Dylan was in that role last year, and Jashawn had his moments where he said things, but I think now he's a senior. He feels like it's his room. Him and Brett's and Coleman's, and I think he has just decided that leadership's not always popular, and sometimes you have to negatively say something. And the one thing Jashawn's doing a good job is he's correcting in a way that doesn't demean, that doesn't make the guys feel like, oh, here we go again. They're just accepting. They understand he's done it. He's done it at a high level. So there's credibility there, and he's doing a great job.
Coach Jones had mentioned before Trey Smith missed some of your practices that he had settled in at guard. Mm-hmm. What made you guys kind of settle him in at that point at guard?
I just think with his power and his ability to maintain leverage, that's a point of attack, especially in our run game. You always want to be solid up the middle. I mean, old school football is, you're tough up the middle from offense to defense all the way through to the secondary. I mean, that's where it all counts. And I think we've got to make sure that we've got the ability to get a push up front, and I think he brings that to us.
What ultimately will make your decision at who starts at center? Coleman's obviously the returning starter. Jashawn's practiced there a lot and done well. What will be the deciding factor there?
Well, I think it'll be a combination of the total five. I mean, you're trying to find the five best. If you're a guard, you should be able to play center. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially mentally. Obviously the snaps are the concern there, but all our guards at one point in return get a snap in practice and get snaps to center quarterback. So you're always cross-training people. So you have the ability not to be pigeonholed to certain people at certain positions. And that doesn't mean anything against anybody, because just like Coleman's played tackle and guard before in the past. So everybody's tried to play, cross-train guys and be ready to go. It'll be how we finish out camp, and who I think, and Coach Jones and Coach Scott and Coach Canales and everybody in the room, it's not like it's just me. It's going to be a group decision, and we're going to come down and decide together, who the best five to put out there against Georgia Tech.
Once you have a starting five and maybe somebody goes down within a game, sometimes you'll have maybe a guy move over from another starting position to fill that role when somebody went down, and then you bring in somebody else off the bench for his spot, and you're changing multiple positions. What's your philosophy on that, and what are the drawbacks, if any, on that?
Well, I think the major philosophy on that is you're trying to get your best five from that point into the game.
Right.
So who's your next best player? Is your next best player a tackle, and a guard goes down? So you can move that one tackle into guard and move the tackle that wasn't playing in at tackle. However it fits, you try to put your best five out there. It's going to give you a chance to win, and that's all that matters is winning the football game.
Last thing, and I appreciate your time. What are the traits you think long-term on Trey Smith that he has that can lead him to be so special?
Well, I think, God's blessed Trey with some unique abilities, and I think Trey knows that, and Trey understands that. But one ability that he's blessed him with is a maturity, and a maturity to understand that and to work for that. And Trey's, been brought up the right way. His mom and dad did a great job, his sister Ashley, and he just understands what it takes to be successful, not just in football, but in academics, off the field. He'll make his mistakes just like every kid does, but he understands the maturity process of it. To be just turned 18, I mean, it's phenomenal. And that doesn't mean, things can happen. Things will, he'll have his struggles just like anybody else. But he's mature enough to understand those struggles, and I think that'll help him push through them quicker than some other people maybe.
Cool. Coach, appreciate it.
No problem.